Hello, dear friends. Welcome to my podcast, English Learning Made Easy. This is your host, Sajed Ali Khan. Friends, actually, today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, turning hobbies into professions. And to discuss this topic, we are honored to have among us the Vice President of Security for Fine Tune Expense Management, Mr. Robert Schreiner from the city called Tennessee, USA. Robert is a former intelligence officer for the United States government. After leaving government service, he began to a subsequent career as a consultant and executive in the global private security industry. Robert's current role is Vice President of Security for Fine Tune Expense Management, a company that provides vendor management, expense management, and consulting services to corporate clients worldwide. Robert is an avid amateur military historian and writer who has traveled the world, and he has previously lived in Europe and Asia. He and his wife live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Tennessee. Robert is a newly published author, and his first novel, The Wolves and the Greyhounds, was published a couple of months ago. I'll just give you a short clip of that novel. I want you people also to have a glance. It's a beautiful picture. Yes, this is the novel written by Robert Schreiner. And you can see this. This novel is talking about the war, and very interesting novel. I think we all should read it. Now, let us move towards a topic of discussion. So, Mr. Robert, I warmly welcome you in our discussion for today's topic. And
Thank you for having me.
you will have a great time with us. Somebody has rightly said, hobbies are first cobweb, then they become cables. So my first question to you, Mr. Robert, can you start by telling us about how hobby and about your hobby and how you initially got into it?
Well, my hobby is writing, as you mentioned earlier. I have been in, certainly other career paths, but all during my entire career doing other things, I've always been interested in writing. I've always written things on my own, short stories, novellas, poetry, things that interest me. And it's been something that I've just enjoyed doing. I certainly enjoy reading as well, all of the great literature of the world, and that I've always found that to be inspirational. So for me, writing as a hobby is something that allows me to express myself, tell stories, and it's an artistic form that I really enjoy.
Okay, may I know, Mr. Robert, what kind of books do you like to read more?
I read a pretty broad range of things. Everything from classic literature to modern thrillers and adventure stories. I have read literary fiction, nonfiction, historical books. It's whatever interests me, really. It's a pretty broad range.
Okay. Okay, which genre do you have more inclination towards? Like, which genre attracts you more to write as you are an author? So, which genre do you like to write more?
As far as writing goes, I do enjoy writing historical fiction and military fiction. Those are areas of interest and expertise for me. And I enjoy telling some of those stories because many of those types of stories involve tales of human heroism, the best and worst things in human nature. And so those things I find as good topics for good storytelling.
Okay. What was the pivotal movement that made you realize this hobby could turn into a profession? When did
It
you actually
was,
realize? Yes.
yes, it was, it began mostly as a desire for it to be successful, truly. I certainly had hoped that I could write a book that could be commercially successful and marketable, that other people would very simply would want to read. And honestly, there were quite a few times where I had begun writing something that I did not think, this is in the past, that I did not think was worthy of uh, public consumption. That I thought, oh, perhaps this really isn't going anywhere. I can't see how this would, really be something marketable. And then I I then refocused my efforts and began looking at it differently. I think I became a better writer and more organized writer. And I then was able to put together this particular book. And I think that the different focus that I had on it allowed me to create something that I then believed was marketable. Now, I didn't get there on my own entirely. I then wanted to make sure that I wasn't the only one who thought this. So I did have some friends and colleagues that I sent the draft of this book to for them to read to see what they thought. Because it's, I certainly could have been too biased in my own opinion to have an objective viewpoint. So getting feedback from friends and colleagues, including other writers and people who I knew and trusted their perspective, that helped me to be encouraged that this was in fact something that I should pursue and try to publish and that, and make it a professional effort.
Okay. When actually did you realize कि I can make this as a career? Like, have you ever realized so far that this writing could become a career also? Because it's a dream of so many authors in the world. Many people have the hobby of writing, and but very few are there who got successful, like J.K. Rowling or some other types of author like Ruskin Bond in our India. And so many are there, thousands of there who are getting succeed, but they also, like an amateur writer, they also started somewhere in the past. Somewhere they also wrote their first book, it got published, they went through all that process. But when did you realize in your life, okay, okay, maybe in my future I'm going to make it as a career?
Well, I think I'm still in that phase. I think I'm still in my early phase at this point. I think it's something that is a legitimate potential for me. It would be something that I think for me might be the ideal place for me to be after I retire in my primary career.
Okay.
But I think when I first started getting feedback from other people, from literary agents, from publishing houses, that what they saw in my writing was good, that was what really encouraged me. And I thought to myself, well, perhaps I really could do this in a professional sense. Now, again, I'm very new to this. And so I cannot claim that this is something that I'm able to do yet solely as a profession. But everyone, as you mentioned, has all of these writers who are, very famous and are able to do this as a profession did have a humble beginning somewhere.
Yeah,
And
of
I think
course.
that's where I think I'm still in my humble beginning stage.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And I wish you all the best for your journey. And this is really a dream of almost every author that, okay, their beginning might be small, but they want to grow bigger and bigger every day. And I hope you have all that potentiality that you are also going to be a very, very big and highly sellable writer in the future. So my next question to you is, when you started writing the first novel, were there some doubts, some type of fears that how I'm going to transit from a hobby to a profession? Like slowly I am walking, but a time will come when I will be just focusing on writing, maybe after you got retired. So, do you feel any kind of doubts sometime in your caliber, whether it will be possible for me or not? Any kind of fear?
Absolutely. The reality is that the world of writing in a professional sense is a crowded one. There are many books out there, many authors,
Yes, yes,
and it is certainly a very competitive
yeah. Cutthroat competition is
environment.
going on. Yes,
Yes, and so there's many other books out there for people to read, and so making yourself known is a large challenge. And the first step is very simply actually writing the book, making sure that it's good enough to potentially compete in a marketplace, and then figuring out how you might fit best in that marketplace. And so I think that I still am trying to determine how best I could do that professionally, especially since there are many writers out there. I think that there are a lot of very talented people who've been able to put their thoughts on paper, and there are a lot of extraordinarily amazing books and great stories that have been put into print. And so I think that's part of it. It's a matter of uh, being that not only is a daunting circumstance, but it's also inspiring because you've seen how many other people who've been able to do it.
yeah.
And there's so many books out there that you can read and think, wow, I would love to be able to tell a story just like this. And that I think also is inspirational.
Okay, what were the first concrete steps you took, like when you started moving from writing as a hobby to a profession? What do you think there are some steps that are must to be taken? Then only you would be complete as a professional writer.
I began researching how writers submit their work to publications
Mhm.
to be published, excuse me.
Yeah.
So
Editing.
to agents or publishers or small publishing houses, what formats should the
Yeah,
writing be in?
editing and
What's
some of the
what
other elements.
exactly file format. So how should the pages be structured? How should what style should you use?
Yeah.
There's a number of things that are the publishers and agents have certain expectations. And so as long as your writing can conform to that, that's pretty much the first hurdle. Making sure that it is something that is within the scope of a particular standard book length. It could be something that's a very, some books, when they're written, a publisher might say, well, that's too small. It's not long enough for what we do. And some books, they may say, well, that's much too long. You need to edit this down and make it a more manageable length. So ensuring that the story itself is told in such a way that not only can they read it and but also so someone else can envision publishing it in a fashion that would be lucrative for them. And so something that's much too long might be too expensive to produce. Something that's too short may not be long enough to actually market properly. So researching all of those parameters that your writing should fit into was really the first step for me, making sure that I was formatting it correctly, that everything was edited to professional standards, and that the expectations that when someone else in the professional writing world, whether they're in publishing or they're agents or they're whatever they're doing, that what they see when it's submitted to them is something that that looks professional to them. And so that was really the first step. And then looking at other resources to make sure that what I might submit was of professional quality. So making sure that it was edited professionally. The reality is that a writer can probably look at the same mistake in the same sentence 100 times and not notice it
Yes.
because they know what that sentence is supposed to sound like. They know what it's supposed to read.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a misspelling or a typo in that sentence is something that they can easily overlook. So having an impartial third party look at that as an editor or proofreader is a critical step to make sure that you haven't missed something that otherwise makes your writing look less than professional. So there are resources out there that I had to research as well to make sure that I could make the finished product as polished and professional as it could be.
And I think Kindle has done a great job in that. To a great extent, Kindle has removed all those tensions and I think the worries from the writers. Like previously, writer used to go and do the publishing work, but when you are typing in the Kindle, most of the time the work is reduced. What do you say about this?
Yes, there are definitely some resources, and Amazon Kindle or
Yeah,
KDP does provide some very powerful tools for
yeah,
helping edit and proofread and spell check. And so it definitely is something that you can do using
yeah,
some of those automated tools. I also found that having an actual other person look at it, was extremely helpful, because sometimes they will catch something that an automated system might not catch.
yeah. Even the arrangement of the pages, the structure, the format, the font size, the style, as per the requirement they were giving. Because when I published my first book, The Rainbow of My Imagination, it's a collection of poetry. So I found it. One of the friend from US only, she advised me to go with that Kindle. And then Jonis Thompson, ma'am Jonis Thompson, she's a very famous poetess there, writing poetry for last 50 years. So she advised me, and then when I used it first time, I was surprised to see that. What a nice structure it has, and everything is there, whatever you need.
Yeah, and it allows you to format, pages and page breaks, and if you're writing a book, it can actually help you with
Yeah.
chapter headings and tables of contents. It is a very powerful tool.
Yeah. Okay. Now, my next question to you is how do you maintain your passion and your hobby together? Do you think that we can have a balance between them? Sometime, like as a passion, we can do the thing, but when we make it as a profession, then we have to be very much skillful. So, how do you suggest to our listeners that the best way, like they can have a balance between both? Like, okay, as a hobby, they are enjoying it, but as a profession, it should be a earning source also for them. Are you getting my point?
That's a good question. I
Yeah.
think that it might be easy for someone who enjoys an activity as a hobby
Yeah.
to somehow find that turning that into a profession doesn't make it as enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that you have to do in a professional sense that have nothing to do with your hobby directly, right?
Yes.
Whether that's marketing, or the whatever that might be, sales, or if your hobby is something that involves creating some, you might need to have inventory and logistics and
Yeah.
shipping and all of those other
Yeah.
things that might be involved.
Yeah.
You might need special equipment. You might need to buy those things.
Yeah. When it
And
is,
so
sorry to interrupt you, when it is related to you only, to your personality, it is a hobby. But when it starts growing like a giant, then it needs a lot of people help and then a huge team you require for that.
Exactly. And what can happen, I think, for a lot of people is that they spend less time working on their hobby and they spend more time working on those other things.
Yeah.
And those other things aren't as enjoyable as the hobby. And so finding a balance to make sure that you're still able to do that thing that you enjoy, whether it's art or woodworking or writing or whatever it might be that is your hobby, without all of those other things that are tied to the professional part of it taking over all of your time, and sapping that joy that you might get out of it. And so making sure that you set aside enough time to really still enjoy your hobby, that it's something that you don't lose focus on the fact that that's why you started this in the first place. In my particular case, the joy of storytelling and the fulfillment and joy that I get from actually putting those stories and ideas on paper keeps me motivated to continue. And the more time I can set aside to do that, the better off I am. And so I need to make sure that I keep that balance where I'm not spending most of my time marketing or doing those other things that help the professional side while neglecting the actual writing itself.
Yeah. Some questions are emerging in my mind while I'm discussing with you. Uh, like my next question to you is, when a writer want to become a very good writer or effective writer, then he has to be a good imaginative skill. Like he should be a good thinker. His imagination should be very vast. So whenever I write any poetry, whenever I write any novel, so the ideas comes like a boiling pot, and like we are warming the milk, and after a certain temperature, it will overflow out of the pot. So same, I think, our brain also works like that. When we keep on thinking on a particular topic, then after a certain time, the ideas starts sprouting out of there. So do you think at a particular time in your life, like sometime for me, when I go for a bath, I don't know how it happens, but whenever I take a bath, a lot of new ideas come to my mind. I feel as if I should come out and write down there. But this is with me, but I don't know, with different people it might be a different, like sometimes some people driving a car and the ideas start flowing to them. Sometimes somebody might be sleeping or walking, maybe ideas come to them. Do you think this is different with different people? Or when those ideas come to you when you want to note them down?
Well, I think that's a very common circumstance. I mean,
Oh,
I like to joke that some of my best writing and thinking happens when I'm working in the yard, when I'm actually, whether I'm digging something or planting something or mowing something. It also happens, one of my other hobbies is woodworking, and I enjoy building,
wow.
furniture and pieces, things like that. And so what I've found is that when I'm deep into that activity, I'm also thinking about what I want to write about. And
Yeah.
so I might have to stop and think, oh, I absolutely need to work on that. And so you're absolutely right that when you're doing something else,
Yes.
some of those best ideas come to you, and you have to make sure that you remember those and you can write them down and make sure that you go back to it at a later date.
Therefore, I always keep a blank paper in my pocket. My late father-in-law always used to tell me, he do not wait for ideas. As soon as they come, capture them, because there is no guarantee they will come back again. So do not wait. Whenever you are getting certain points, immediately note them down. So he gave me that secret, and definitely it's working like a miracle. Whenever ideas come, I note them down, and later on you can think and recall it. But if you forget them, then they will not come again. There is no guarantee. So don't
That's true.
think
It's great
right.
advice.
I think writing is not a certain type of job like a driver. After sitting on the driving seat only, he will drive. Writing is not such a job you will sit at the table and then only you will write. No, you can think anywhere, ideas might appear anywhere, and you have to just capture them. What do you say about this? There is no
Absolutely. I think
particular
it's a great.
place, there is no particular time that the ideas will come to you. They might come any time. Sometime it happened with me. Okay, I am just about to sleep, and suddenly the ideas started coming. So even I got up, I started noting them down, because I don't know. Maybe in the morning when I will wake up, whether I will get those ideas back again or not.
Well, absolutely. And one of the other things that I found is that, especially for a writer who, good writing involves good characters.
Yeah.
And there are times where I'm out and about doing whatever I would do in my regular life, whether that's, shopping or, working or whatever it might be. And I encounter someone or a circumstance that is particularly unusual or interesting or funny or
Hmm.
scary or tragic. And when I see those things, I try to make note of those, because those are real circumstances that can help color what I might create as a character in a future book or a future story. And so encountering those real life circumstances, whatever they might be, is also inspirational. And it's worth remembering and noting those types of things down as well, because that unusual or funny person that you might have just met, or that person could someday become a character in a book that
Yeah.
makes that book that much more interesting or that much more real to a reader than someone that you're struggling to try and manufacture out of nothing.
Therefore, I think the writers prefer to travel more because they come into contact with different people, different culture, and they get their ingredients from the way. Wherever they go, they learn something because those stories are found on the way in different places. And sitting in the home and just thinking will not make you writer. I feel this is my personal opinion. You have to go mingle with the people, you have to go talk to them, have communication with different types of culture, and therefore I feel those great writers of the world, they are the big fan of traveling different countries. So I feel this is what actually giving them the ingredients for their writing.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, my next question to you is looking back in your career as a writing or when you started as a hobby, and you are just still on the phase that maybe after some years it will be your profession after you got retired. So do you think uh, anything that would have done differently? Do you think like, okay, I have done it, but it would be better if I would have done it in a different way? Is there any kind of act in your life that you feel about it like that?
Possibly. The only, and it would be hard to say that I would have any real regrets. I think that uh, one of them might have been that I probably should have made this transition perhaps a little sooner. I think that I didn't really know everything that I know now about
Yeah.
how it might actually happen this way. But the reality is, I think as a writer, the more life experience you have, the more you're able to really convey
Yes.
that anyway. And
Yes.
so I don't know if I can really count that as a true regret, because I think that anything I write now in this stage of my life might have some richer context than
Yeah.
I could have written 30 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
perhaps.
Of course. Of
And
course.
so I think that it's that there's a it would have been nice, I think, to have started perhaps a little sooner with transitioning from hobby to trying to get things published. But I also don't think that I would have been as good at it then as I am now. So
Yeah.
it may balance out.
Yes. Experience makes a big difference actually. When you are an experienced
Absolutely.
person, you are an experienced writer, then definitely your writing will be more effective. It will touch to the hearts of your reader. You will be more able to make your point very much clear in their minds, and people will be just feeling a magnetic power in your language because you have gone through with those experiences of life. I'll tell you about my book. All the poems, whatever I have written, it took almost three plus years, three to 4 years to complete that. I have written almost 57 poems only. But each poem has a particular incident in my life. I went through with those emotions. It is not like that I sat somewhere and just imagined and wrote it. No, each and every poem has a particular, what I can say, connection with my life. I can even tell about it. Okay, I wrote this because when I was feeling in my life, when I got this setback, I wrote that poem. When I was very happy, I wrote that. When I was in tension, I wrote that. So all the collection of experiences of life makes your writing very vibrant in color and very attractive for the readers. So definitely you are absolutely correct. If you would have written earlier, that would be not very much effective. And with the time, the experience and everything grows. You're absolutely right. Okay, my next question to you is, how has this journey so far from your personal life to a professional? How do you think you have already started? No matter you have just gone to the early stage, but do you enjoy the transition period from uh, like a normal personality, then you are going to be a personality like maybe after some years, if God wills, if you get good limelight, if your books are in high sale, maybe that personality will be very effective than a normal person's personality. So how do you feel about that?
That would be wonderful, I think. I think that that idea of being able to be acknowledged and recognized as in
Yeah,
that field is, I think, something that everyone would find fulfilling and gratifying. And the initial responses that I received when this book was published were very positive.
yeah,
It was good to hear that from other people. It was something that had been in my head
yeah,
for several years before that, and I thought it was pretty good. But to finally have some external validation for it was definitely a gratifying experience. And I think that uh, that's the part that if you can make someone else feel what you felt when you first thought of that story, and if someone else is entertained, and if they find it fulfilling.
yeah. That is the big achievement for a writer. When you feel that you could touch to the hearts of the people, means you are a successful writer. I feel that is the best touchstone of your caliber, of your potentiality. My next question, and I most probably it would be the last question of this. What final thoughts or encouragement you would like to share with our audience? Uh, Sorry, there was interruption.
Looks like a glitch there. Yeah, that can happen.
Okay, so the last question, we can go for the last question. What final thoughts of encouragement you would like to share with our audience or listeners considering turning their hobby into profession?
I I would I would encourage everyone who might be interested in doing that to actually research it a little bit. I think that there's so many ways that someone can take what they do and they really enjoy as a hobby and possibly turn that into something that might be professionally lucrative for them. There is this adage that says, you know, do what you love and love what you do as a profession. And I think that what tends to happen is that people tend to have jobs that are just jobs, and they do their job because it's their job. And that's fine. And I think that that's what most people do. And they then have their hobbies, which are the things that they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And if there is some way that you can turn that hobby, the thing that you really like doing, into your profession, I would absolutely encourage people to try it. And I think it might be intimidating to a lot of people to make that jump, or maybe they don't think they're good enough at it, or maybe they don't think that it would actually be lucrative. But the only way to know is to actually try it. And I think that a lot of people would be surprised at how marketable their hobbyist skill might be in the real world. And I think there are a lot of people who have truly amazing talents that they sort of keep to themselves as part of their hobby, and that the world could actually benefit from what they do if they were to be able to share them.
Thank you so much for your valuable advice for our listeners. And thanks a lot for giving your precious time. And indeed, it was a fantastic experience discussing all these important points with you. And I do hope that our listeners must have enjoyed a lot and learned many things from your words of wisdom. So, with this, we come to the end of our today's discussion. Now, the time has come to say bye, but I'll see you again with our next video with another nice topic. Till then, do take care and God bless us all. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert. I am humble and I am very much grateful to you that from your very busy schedule, you have given us your important time and God bless you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.